Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. This video today, I'm going to show you how to make bouncy, ambient, fire beats. Yeah, let's get straight into it. All right, so I first opened up Electra X using this preset, Bell Blinding, in the Roy Major Legion Volume 1 bank. And we're just playing a very simple 1/5 chord progression with the third inverted. I rendered that to a mixer channel, cut out all the low end. I suggest you do this for every instrument that isn't a kick or a 808 or a bass instrument. Fruity compressor with a 2:1 ratio, just to even out the volume a little bit. I've got Portal. I love this plugin. I got it recently. We got the World Wars speaker. That's actually spelt incorrectly, which is interesting. I don't think I touched this. Mix level is at 50%. This is the last preset in the Grain Synthesis Portal bank. Then finally, Fruity Reverb 2 with these settings. I use these settings pretty much in every single instance of reverb I use these days. Yeah, then I rendered that into the playlist right here. Then for the intro here, I just added this bass. It follows the root note. Very dark and grungy. I really like it. As you could guess, it has a bit of Decapitator on it. It's got the mid-driver preset. I don't believe I changed it at all. Maybe the punish was on and I turned it off, but these are the settings. And then a fruity parametric EQ just to shape the sound a little bit. Ducking about 450 hertz and boosting a little bit of the low end at about 50 hertz, just to give it a bit more sub. Got this simple bell melody. And that just repeats. That has no effects on it. It's just a stock sound. And then I grabbed this trumpet one shot and just played the root chord of the scale. We're in A minor, so I'm playing an A minor triad. Just shifted back onto the 2. And then with the third inverted as well. Basic effects on that one. Got a bandpass EQ, cutting out a lot of the frequencies, really narrow it down and give it its own space. And then reverb, again, with very similar settings as the first one I used. Now, those last 3 one-shots I showed you, the bass, the bell, and that trumpet, all come from the same one-shot kit. Producer Grind Poison. I believe this was free when I got it. Probably is still free, so go search for that on the interwebs. It's super fire. I use this one-shot kit a lot. Then I've just got this basic beep sound from Trifreeze's Atlanta Culture 2 drum kit, also free. A lot of these sounds are free. In fact, I think all of them are, except for Electra X and Arcade. This is the beep sound. This has the ambience reverb. I wanted this to be a really long, wet reverb. Really give it that ambient feel. If you're going for an ambient vibe to your beats, a lot of reverb and narrow bandpass EQs really give it that flavor. And now, because all of the sounds I've introduced so far are pretty washy, except for the bass, of course, we need a lead. And I just use vocal chops for this. You can use any type of lead if you want. Yeah, I went to Arcade. I used this compromised bank. We've got the warp space up to probably, I'd say that's 80%. Same with the reflect echo. Now, I don't usually use these effects, but for this instance, it sounded pretty good. And the first pattern I drew in goes like this. Now, this is cut and chopped in the arrangement, which I'll get into a little bit later, but that just repeats for that pattern. Now, something I'm really starting to incorporate is these sharp notes in Arcade. As you can see, all the white notes, no sharps or flats, they play the sample sounds. Right? And all these, the black notes on the keyboard basically are the modifiers. And using the modifiers can give you a really unique bounce, sound, chop really easily. So I've been trying to use that more and more, and I really like it. So if you don't use those, especially on your vocal chops, I'm sure it would sound good for a lot of the other sounds and banks, but vocal chops especially, I know it sounds good. So yeah, that's it for the melody. Now move on to the drums. Now, because the melody is quite full, and especially that vocal lead is quite busy, we're going to keep the drums very simple. I've got this clap, and it's playing a very standard clap pattern. So this sort of mimics a drill bounce type vibe. I think it suits this beat really well. The first 2 bars is the only unique type of 2 bars in this clap pattern. Usually the drill bounce is like this, where the clap goes on the 3rd and on the 4th in the next bar, but I've just shifted this back to be on the 4 along with this one for the first 2 bars. And then for the second 2 bars, it reverts back to the regular drill bounce, and I've just copied that over for the second half as well. Keep in mind, all these drum sounds are from Kyle Beats' Nightmare drum kit. It's the free version. You go check that out on his channel. I feel like I'm forever promoting other people's free drum kits on here, so maybe I'll make a free drum kit myself so I can plug myself, but you know, if it's good, I'm just gonna tell you it's good, and if you want it, you can go find it. We got this hi-hat. Now, I like to keep my hi-hat patterns very simple. Generally, they follow a 1 or 2 bar pattern that just repeats. And you'll notice that this actually follows a very similar drill pattern as well. Where you can see you have the sort of drill pattern spacings that you would usually see. That's the pattern they use in drill. And then, you know, I just sort of play around with the timing, emphasize the bounce where some other drums are playing, or the pockets in the melody. And that's basically the very broad, generalized tips I can give you for creating a good hi-hat bounce. So this is what the clap and the hi-hat sound like. Got this open hat. Got a little flutter at the end, which I really like. And this follows the actual generic 808 bounce, where the note length is a bar and a half long, and that just repeats like so, with 3 notes like that. And for the second 2, I just decided to put another note a quarter beat after the first one as a sort of stutter effect. I think it sounds really good because it both layers with the 808 and it gives it a unique bounce. And as you can hear there, it sort of layers with the stuttered hi-hat as well, which sounds really cool. So I'm going to pair the 808 and the kick together. But for the 808 pattern, we're primarily on the root of the scale, which is A, with slight deviations to E, which is the 5th of the scale. Very simple stuff. We're just playing on the root and the 5th. And that's it. Those are the only notes I'm concerned with. If you're not sure how to get to the 5th, if you're in A minor, the root is A, and the 5th, in this case, is 7 semitones up or 5 down. So if we go from A here, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we're at E. Or if we start at A again, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down at E. And this works for any scale. If you're in C sharp minor, C sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. G sharp is C sharp minor's 5th. And no matter what octave you're in, the root and the 5th is going to be the same. So once you figure out one, you can pretty much go straight to the other if you feel that way inclined. But to go up to the 5th, it's 7. To go down to the 5th, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we land on G sharp again. One last thing I'll sort of touch on is to get a faster version of that generic 808 bounce is 3/4 beat. This just sort of follows the bounce of the vocal chops and the hi-hat, passing back and forth with the clap as well. You'll listen when I play it here in a second. And the kick, very simply, follows the 808. I've removed the kick on the high notes of the 808 because the kick playing with those higher octave notes don't always sound the best. Yeah, keeping that very basic. And that's all the patterns I've got for this beat. We've got a little bit of a rain texture for the intro, my tag, and then we've got this riser. I've pitched that up 200 cents to make it a little bit more high pitched, obviously. And yeah, that's it for the patterns. I'm going to run through the arrangement quickly, and then we'll show you the full beat. So we got a 16 bar intro. For the first 4 bars, it's just the electro and obviously the ambience in the intro. But you see the first arcade pattern I've chopped up, and it's sort of playing the first and the last bar of this section here. We've got the first arcade and the second arcade playing back and forth like that. And then for the second 8 bars, you can see it's much more of a pattern. We've brought the bass in, and then we've got the first arcade for a bar, leave a space, second arcade, leave a space, first arcade, leave a space, second arcade. And then we've got the riser into the hook, which is 16 bars. And usually for the hook, I have all the drums except for the kick in the first half. Quite often I cut out sounds for the last bar to drop it into the second part of the hook that has more energy. And I decided to have the second arcade actually go first in the hook, because you want the first half of the hook to have a higher energy than the intro or the verse, but not as high energy as the second part of the hook. You want it to build slowly and have like a linear progression. I decided to cut the bar out here before the second half of the first part of the hook. Stay with me. It looks simpler than it is to explain. Then for the second half of the hook, all I did was bring the kick back in, make sure the riser was swelling into it to build it up, make it a lot of energy. And I did this sort of 4th bar cut for this arcade like I did here as well, to keep the bounce and the rhythm sort of familiar. Then into the verse, I always do the 24 bar verses. This is where I bring the trumpet in for the first time. I like to not play all my melodic instruments before the first hook, so that when the verse comes in, it's very distinct, it's very different, and the listener can tell straight away. So again, we've got these chops of arcade coming in, not playing all the time, because if they're playing all the time, it would sort of feel more like the hook. And then I do this a lot after the hook. Or the chorus, I cut the first 2 bars of the drums out. Make sure I don't have the kick as well because that adds more punch and I want to leave that for the last part of the hook. But leaving 2 bars is a nice middle ground. It sort of gives space to tell the listener it's the verse, but it also brings the drums back in with some bounce, energy. And because there's less melody going on, there's more space for the drums, so the 808 seems to knock more in the verse and seems to have a little bit more bounce in my opinion. I like to be a little bit more creative in the arrangement for my verses than my hooks. Generally, I just have 90% of my sounds in the hook. This is totally personal preference, arrange however you like. But yeah, that's pretty much the arrangement. I hope that made sense. I feel like I just word vomited a lot, but yeah, if you liked the video, subscribe if you want to see more content, hit the bell notification bell for next time I post a video. Thank you all for very much for watching. I appreciate you all. Stay safe, stay healthy. Here's the full beat. And as always, take it easy and I love you.